Hi guys, in today's video I'll show you how to transform this into this. As a matter of fact, the default KPI visual within Power BI is my personal favorite. It is visually appealing and provides a lot of insights related to trend lines and comparison to target value. However, you don't find it used so much in Power BI reports, and this is because it has so many limitations. For instance, this visual needs a target value to work properly. Also, it doesn't work well with date slicers. Whenever you apply a date slicer, you will lose the trend line in the background. Furthermore, you can't categorize this visual. You can't have it in a matrix view with different categories. Another limitation with this visual that you can't zoom into the trend line showing in the background. In this episode, we'll develop a Power BI report based on this visual, and we'll find workarounds for all of these issues. But before we do that, make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay updated with exciting business intelligence projects. During this episode, I'll start by going through the data I'm gonna use to develop the Power BI reports. Then, I'll develop a simple traditional Power BI report, and finally we'll take things to the next level by developing Power BI reports based on the KPI visuals. We'll use 6 amazing tricks to overcome the limitations comes with this visual. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back and watch. Let's go through the data we have. We have the sales data in CSV file for products sold across 5 countries, and we have 6 different products. Some countries like Canada, for example, have 3 products sold in there, while for example Saudi Arabia has 6 products sold there. And the sales data is available from the period of Q2 2018 to Q2 2023. Okay guys, here we go. We're inside Power BI now. We start by get data, CSV or text file. Then we locate the file containing the data, the sales file, and we click on transform. We can see that Power BI already promoted headers for us. As you can see, this data is straightforward. However, we need to do a couple of transformations. We start by add a column. We need to add a date column by extracting the date from the year and the quarter. I already prepared a function for that. Let's call it date here. Then we click OK. As you can see here, the date column is created for us. There is one more thing we need to do here. We need to convert the type into date. One more transformation we need to do is combining the year and the quarter columns into one column. We use a separator as a dash and we name it period. There's one more thing I want to do here. We'll need it in part 2 of this project. Not now, I'll explain it later. We need to rename the country as L1 or level 1 and the product as L2 or level 2. And that's it. All the transformation we need to do is done. So we close and apply, and we have the sales data loaded to the dashboard. Next, we'll create a date table using DAX from modeling, and I have the function ready. I'm just gonna use it. So we use the start date from the sales table and the end date, and we use the calendar between those 2 dates. And here we go, we have the date table created. Now we go to relationships and we create a relationship between both dates. And that's it, we have our data model ready. Now we're ready to develop the dashboard. Let's start with a simple dashboard. First, we import the background. I have it ready as usual. I'll just import it, change the image fit to fit, transparency to 0. Then we'll use a slicer for the country or L1. Let's change the setting for the slicer to tile and allow select all from selection and hide the slicer header. Some more formatting, hide the background and show some shadows. Next, we'll use the cluster line visual. We'll feed to it first the date as x-axis, and then we'll add the sales. We'll remove from days the day and the month, and we move the sales to the line axis. Expand it. Then let's format it a little bit. Let's hide the title for the x-axis, add markers, labels, and from general let's remove the background and add shadows as well. Let's rename the sales to sales and add the $sign and format the title a little bit. Here we go, we have it ready. Now we'll use a matrix to show the sales data. We'll feed to it L1 the country, L2 the product. We'll move it both to the rows. Then we'll add the period to the columns, and finally the sales to the values. Let's format this a little bit. From general, we do the same formatting, remove background and apply shadows. And we go back and rename the rows to country and products. Expand it, and we have the visual ready. Finally, we'll add one more slicer for date to be able to slice the data for certain periods. Let's add the date and do the same formatting for it. Here we go, we have the dashboard ready. Let's test it a little bit. We can select, for example, Canada, and we can see the data is filtering, and we can use also the date filter. And let's stop right here. Guys, you have probably seen this dashboard 1 million times. It's simple, straightforward, it does the job. However, you're not watching this video to see this dashboard. So let's take things to the next level. Let's develop the dashboard that you're here to see. We start with the same slicer, the country slicer. However, we do one small modification. We change the selection, we turn off the select all, and we make it single select. Then we'll add another slicer for the period, the time. We feed to it period, and we change the settings to the style to drop down. Let's adjust the size, put in the correct location, and we change the format, the background we turn it off, and we add shadow. Now next, let's change the background for the canvas. I already have it ready as usual. Just select it and change to image fit to fit and transparency 0. Now let's start with the KPI visual. We feed to it the sales and the date. And as we can see, we don't have a target data to feed in the target field. So what we will do instead, we will compare to the previous quarter value. And this is the first trick we will use here. We'll define a measure to calculate the previous quarter value and feed it to replace the target. Let's right click, new measure, and I have it ready. I just paste it. So the previous value will first define the previous date based on the previous quarter. Then we return calculate the sales, remove filters from the date to ignore all the other filters, and make the date filters equal the variable we defined. So let's now feed in this measure to the target, and we can see the KPI came to life. Next trick we'll do here is adding an arrow. We need to add an arrow to show the direction of the change. So we create a new measure first to calculate the change between sales between the current sales value and the previous value. We already created this measure for the previous value, so we just subtract the current value from previous value, and we have the change. Next we'll add the arrow measure. Again, I have it ready. I'll just paste it. So what this measure does, it check if the change is bigger than 0, it it will use the unique character for the arrow up, and if it's less than 0 it will use the unique character for the arrow down, and otherwise, or if it's equal to 0, it will show neutral arrow. Enter, and we have the arrow ready. Now we'll use a card to show the arrow, and we feed to it the measure for the arrow. The arrow is showing. Let's do some formatting, remove the label and remove the background, and change the font size and move it next to the value inside the KPI. Next we'll do the font color as conditional formatting based on rule related to the measure we created to calculate the change. So if the change is greater than or less than 0, we give it a red color. If it's equal to 0, we give it a neutral color, yellow. If it's bigger than 0, we give it a color of green. We can see the period slicer is selected all. This is why the wrong direction for the arrow is showing. So let's first sort it by descending and make sure it's single select from settings, slicer setting, and selection single select. Once we have single period selected, we can see that we lost the trend line because we are looking now at a single date point or single quarter. So this brings us to the third trick we're gonna use here. We're gonna first duplicate this visual and format it a bit, change the callout value, put in the location in the up corner, and reduce the size and show the units in millions. Then we'll hide the icon, and for the target we hide the distance to goal and the target label, so we can see only the value in the top corner showing. And next we select the period, and from format we edit interaction, and we make this visual ignore this slicer. Finally we remove the title, and let's locate it on top of the visual we have. From view we show selection, and we move it behind it. So now it's there behind it, so we need to format our KPI a bit, change the display unit to millions, and from general we hide the background and add border with corners rounded of 10, and which we add a shadow with the color yellow. And we format also the title a little bit, and we can see that showing goal. Let's replace it with previous or prior quarter. And here we go. We have three visuals. Let's group them. We call it overall. Next we'll duplicate this KPI and start creating groups for each of the products. So we want to create one visual for each of the products. We have 6 products. Let's just resize it and move all of them in the correct location. And we repeat this for the 6 of them. Let's rename the groups 1, 2, 3 to 6. Here we go. We can see that the trend line is disappeared again. So what we need to do, we need to repeat the process we did for the overall from edit interaction. But here, because it's behind our KPI, we can't see it. So we need to go to the group and hide the KPI first, and then we can see the trend line, and we can deactivate the filter. We repeat this for the 6 of them. We have the trend lines showing for all the KPIs. But if you notice, all the KPIs here having the same value, which is the overall value. We need the 6 KPIs to be filtered for each of the products. And to do this, that brings us to the 4th trick. We'll add a new column to the sales table. Right click, new column, and I have it ready. I'll just paste it. In this function, we have first define a variable to group all the records in the same period, and also another variable to group them in the same country. Next, we'll use rankX function that will able to provide a rank for each of the records in the table based on the sales value. We feed a slice of the table, filtered first for the period and then filtered again for the country, and we'll have the rank as descending. That means the biggest sales value will have number 1. So let's apply, and let's go to the table, see how it looks. We have the rank column added. Let's filter the table for one period. For example, let's select Q2 2023 and look into one country, for example Saudi Arabia. We can see that we have ranking based on the sales value. So the biggest sales, which is 71 million, has the first rank, and the second is 60 million. But we see a tie here. We have two products, product 3 and 4, having the same sales value, so they both have the number 3, and this will not work. What we need to do is a small trick here. From transform data, we go to the sales table and we add an index column. This index column will give a unique number for each of the rows. So let's close and apply, and we go back to our function, the rank function, and instead of using the sales alone, we'll just add the rank to it, just to break the tie. And just to make sure it will not affect the ranking, we will multiply it by a very small number, like 0.001. Hit enter, and we can see that the tie is broken now. Now we have the ranking system is ready. Let's go back to the dashboard and apply it as filters for each of the visuals. Starting by the first one, open the filters and we feed in the rank. And for the first one, for the 3 visuals, we need to make sure that it's equal to 1. We repeat this for the other 2 visuals. And finally the third one, we make it equal to 1. Now we repeat this for the second KPI for the 3 visuals inside there, but we need to filter it for the number 2. So this will show rank 2, and we repeat this for all of the KPIs. Now we can see all the KPIs are filtered. However, we don't know what product each KPI represents. And this brings us to the 5th trick we're gonna use today. So we're gonna create a measure with a dynamic title that responds to filters. So I have the measure ready. So I'm gonna paste it. This measure has an if statement that checks the number of products for each of the KPIs. If the number is bigger than 1, it assumes it's overall, and it will give it the title overall sales for and provide the country name. Otherwise, if it's equal to 1, it will assume it belongs to a product and will give it the title overall sales for country name, and in brackets add the product name. So let's hit OK and apply it, and let's use the measure as a title for the overall KPI. We use conditional formatting and select the field value for the measure we just created. We can see that the title showing overall sales for Canada. Now we repeat this for all the other KPIs, and we can see they work as expected. Even when we shift to different countries or different periods, it updates as expected. Now if you remember, when we created the rank function, we used descending order, and we always see the biggest value as the first KPI and the lowest as the last KPI. We can try also to reverse the order, use ascending order instead of descending order, and see how it looks. As you can see, the order has been reversed. We have the lowest showing first and the maximum showing at the end. Let's reverse it back to descending order. Now, for some countries like UK, we have only 2 products sold there, and we have 6 KPIs, some of them empty and showing there. Can we hide the unused ones? And this brings us to the last trick for today. Let's go for insert, insert shape, and we size it to the KPI size, and from style we hide the border. Then we create a new measure that will able to hide or show this shape based on a measure. This measure will check if there is a product used for rank 1. So if it's greater than 0, that means there's a product there, and if there is a product there, it turns the shape to transparent. Just by adding 2 zeros to the color, it will convert it to transparent. If not, we provide the same color of the background. Let's hit OK, and then let's apply it to shape 1. From conditional formatting, for fill in conditional formatting, we select field value and we select the measure we just created. You can see now it's hidden because it has a value. Now let's move this shape inside the KPI group. We make sure to put it in the front, the first one, and we just need to repeat this for all the KPIs. And here we go, we have the unused KPIs hidden. Let's test the dashboard with the slicers, trying different countries, and maybe also trying the date filters. And we have the dashboard ready. Guys, I hope you found what you came to see here in this video. If you like the contents of this episode, please hit the like button. If you're new, subscribe to this channel. And also, leave comments with your valuable feedback. Now we have finished the first part of this project. We still have more limitations to overcome. We want to equip this dashboard with more functionalities and capabilities. For instance, the dashboard we have created in this episode starts by filtering the country and see the KPIs for the individual products. But can we reverse it? Can we actually start by the product and see the sales per country as separate KPIs? Can we actually have both options in the same report? Also, the previous value only allows us to compare to the previous quarter. But can we actually have more options, like for example, compared to the previous year? Another thing I want to work on in part 2 of this project is to be able to zoom in to the trend line showing in the background. So guys, tune in for the next episode to see how we're gonna achieve this. And for now, peace.